Buenos dias from beautiful Barrio Huanuca in Matagalpa, Nicaragua. Today, the last day of November, 30 de November, 30th of November, in 2025, which is 2025. So again, the Espanol, poco y poco. I'll get there one day. A few updates. I had mentioned in a quick shout out earlier in the week for Thanksgiving that I was going to do a little video coming up. This is in particular about online transactions and some access to websites while you are overseas. I have been building my recording studio, as many of you know. I had to get some custom pieces of furniture made, so I had room for a bunch of my equipment. I did all that, and I was ordering a particular kind of stand for a bunch of my synthesizers, and the products aren't really made commercially, so I looked for something a little more bespoke, something that was made by a custom manufacturer. And the Etsy website, which I had not used before, had exactly what I needed by a private vendor, making handcrafted goods one at a time. Made a transaction on there, and I get an email back that my account has been declined. The transaction was declined, and the account was temporarily suspended. So didn't know why it was suspended. I looked and I was like, okay, the credit card wasn't canceled. The credit card wasn't, the transaction wasn't in question by the credit card company. It tells you to look and see if there's something going on with your credit card. And sometimes there will be a hiccup in using one of my cards overseas. More often than not, there is not. I use one primary credit card here. I use my Charles Schwab International Debit just to retrieve cash from the ATMs. My U.S. debit from my primary bank I do not use here in country. So there's no transactions going against it other than my bill pays. I have a credit card from the same bank in the States that I don't use in country, but I use for online purchases. So sometimes I'll get an alert that says, hey, by the way, is this really you? Did you really try to make this purchase? That wasn't the case. The card wasn't declined by the bank. There wasn't suspicious activity. And the Etsy email doesn't say why the account is temporarily suspended. It gives you a couple ideas of why it's suspended. So the only thing I could think of at the time was it didn't like the fact that my web browser showed that I was in Nicaragua for the transaction. Now, I have a U.S. address, a legitimate mailing address with family. That is my official U.S. mailing address. You still need an official address for things like your driver's license, home of record, bank accounts. When you move overseas, you still have a little bit of an anchor to the States for convenience. If not, you're looking to do a lot more in a more difficult manner, like, how do you update the passport when you don't have a U.S. address on file? Your U.S. taxes become a little more cumbersome when you're doing things like that. So I was thinking, well, maybe it was because of that. But again, I had a transaction where I have a U.S. bank account with a U.S. address. I have a U.S. address for home of record. I have a U.S. address for the third-party shipper that was going to mail this from Miami to Managua on my behalf. And all of that, again, U.S. citizen doing an international, it's not an international transaction as far as the banks are concerned. It's all U.S. account by U.S. citizen, and didn't understand what the problem was. So I looked at the information, I looked at the suggested ones that the bot response from Etsy showed, couldn't find the answer, and I sent them back an email saying, I don't understand why my account's suspended. Please, give me an answer, and I will address whatever the concern is. I went back and forth 2 more times, and I got bot response emails from them asking me to confirm my full name, confirm the full name that the bank account's under, confirm the mailing address. None of that changed. It's all US, 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 US. And finally, I get pretty much a cease and desist bot email from Etsy saying that my account is permanently closed because I violated their terms and conditions. So I spent an hour reading their terms and conditions page, could not find out what it is I've done to violate their transaction policies. In that digging, I did see that they make an identifier. If you are in North or South America, you are doing business with one website. And if you're doing transactions from anywhere else on the planet, you're going through a different website that goes through Ireland. So you're either under the international commerce laws of Ireland or you're under the international commerce laws of the U.S. And it shouldn't be international commerce because U.S. citizen, U.S. address, U.S. bank account being mailed to a U.S. address. Still don't know what the problem was. My account has been permanently revoked. I would never be allowed to purchase anything on Etsy's platform. I would never be allowed to sell anything on Etsy's platform. And they still couldn't give me an explanation. So after reading through not one, but two different websites' terms and conditions of use, I shared this information on our WhatsApp group and come to find out that Etsy is under investigation for questionable international banking transactions, some of which has to do with Israel versus Palestine funding. So I was never given an answer of why my account's denied. The only thing I can assume is it's because it didn't like where the geotag for my internet connection was from, and it saw Nicaragua. So for those who are not well versed on the politicals between the U.S. and Nicaragua, quite simply, we are not under financial sanctions as a country. U.S. citizens are not under a financial sanction while here. There are individuals identified by the U.S. federal government of Nicaraguan nationality, primarily people in political positions, that have financial sanctions against them. I'm doing nothing with any of those people. I don't know them. I'm not hanging out with Nica politicians. So there is no good reason, and much less they wouldn't provide a reason, to permanently bar me from their platform. Now, I would have liked to have purchased a few things from there. I like supporting entrepreneurs, and that's supposed to be a platform that supports entrepreneurs. But what you've done now is you've prevented me from supporting those entrepreneurs, and you've prevented a potential entrepreneur from selling products on your platform with no good reason, without a human response, just completely cut and paste AI-generated bot responses. And I'm now blocked from that site. So I had to go spend money elsewhere and spend almost twice as much with a different, smarter entrepreneur who's not on the Etsy platform. And I have something being handmade. In fact, Thanksgiving night, the guy sends me a personalized email telling me the status of my current order. And with that, I will, the Noizzi Hardwood, Noizzi Hardwood, makes custom pieces of furniture for electronic synthesizers and equalizers. First name is James. James sent me, I wanted to let you know, I cut, routed, drilled, and sanded your Moog 5 tier mount yesterday. This will be finished on Monday, scheduled to be sent on its way by Thursday, which is a week earlier than his website posted. Thank you so much for your generous patience. You'll receive tracking information as soon as the label is processed. I hope your mount meets your expectations. Please let me know otherwise. And if there's anything else I can do for you, meanwhile, I hope you are enjoying your holiday weekend. Cheers, James. This is a perfect example of what entrepreneurs, when given the freedom to run their own business as they see fit, do. The above and beyond of today's standards once was considered just commonplace, but kudos to James. Really looking forward to the piece of equipment that he's handcrafting for me as we speak. And I'm grateful that he didn't jump on the log pile to be on a platform named Etsy that just randomly blocks people from engaging with other people to do transactions. I've broken no law. I could find no term and condition policy from their website, either the one in Ireland or the one for the United States that I supposedly violated. And they adamantly refused to give me the justification for the barring. So whatever, one less. But just to make you aware, if you have used this program before, I would strongly advise thinking twice about ordering something while you're on vacation. Heaven forbid you're in the wrong zip code, because the only thing we can assume from this is they didn't like the fact that I didn't have a VPN on at the time, pretending to be in the United States, because there was no need to. I was, again, U.S. citizen, U.S. bank account, U.S. mailing address for home of record for billing purposes, U.S. mailing address for where it was going to. No good reason to deny the transaction. But again, kudos to James with the, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it right, the Noizzi, Noizzi, Noizzi hardwood. By the way, if you're looking for something for synthesizer hardwood, check out his website. It's great. So to build off of that, some other issues that are VPN related. I have a VPN. I use Proton. It's a small annual fee. It's nice because it allows you to select from hundreds of VPNs. In the US, there's probably a good 2,000. I wouldn't take the time to try to count them, but I could scroll through just New York and California's for a few minutes at a time. I have a local VPN in Central America I use for some transactions. I have a VPN in Florida that I use for other transactions. And I don't have it on all the time. Luckily, it doesn't slow down my connection like some of the free VPNs do. But I have it there for when I need it. So I've found recently more and more websites are blocking my access to their websites simply because I am not sitting inside the United States at the time. So I have, prime example, I've had AAA. I've had AAA for like 25 years. Well, the last year of it, T-Mobile gave you a free year of AAA through them. Now, mind you, I'm only in the States maybe 5 to 6 weeks out of a year. It's kind of nice to just have it while I'm renting a car, knowing I've got that without paying additional what if. But it's about to expire. So with AAA, where I had an account, I do not have access to AAA from Nicaragua over the internet. And even when you try to log on to the main, it goes, oh, it appears that you're trying to access our account from, and it says Nicaragua, in which case you need to go to this other website. So you try to go to the other website, and it says access forbidden. You can't go to it. And then it gives you a different homepage for, oh, if you're a foreigner, not U.S. citizen, and you need temporary AAA coverage while in the United States, go to this website. So you try to hit the link to that, and it says access forbidden. So I haven't tried to go back and do the VPN to trick the website to think, hey, U.S. citizen's actually standing in the U.S. versus U.S. citizen who's been a customer for almost 25 years is vacationing where you encourage us to. So what if I was only on a 2-week vacation? I needed to access my AAA account. Well, if your domain shows up that you're outside the United States, good luck getting access to your own account, which is mind-boggling. We are in a digital age. We're in a digital world. It's a financial, international, global platform that you work off of. I can buy stuff from anywhere on the planet. I can normally send stuff to anywhere on the planet. But more and more, I'm running into websites that don't like the fact that I'm not sitting in the United States when I'm trying to conduct my business. And there is nothing unlawful about you traveling, visiting, doesn't matter for how long, going somewhere and accessing the accounts that you already have. Surprisingly, I brag about T-Mobile. T-Mobile is great to us. It's probably one of the best platforms for telecommunications, for cell phone use when you're outside the U.S. They have great service while you're inside the U.S., but they are seamless. They are in more countries than anybody else with a pretty consistent track record. All of that being said, if I want to access my T-Mobile account from this desktop computer at the house on Wi-Fi, I will be blocked from the account. So if I go to the cell phone and I go to the T-Mobile app and I try to access my T-Mobile account from the app from  my account will get blocked. I have to turn off the Wi-Fi, go and flip back my cellular service to, or I'm sorry, to the data service to T-Mobile versus my Claro that I use locally here. And even though it's going to ping that I'm still in Nicaragua, because I'm not using the Wi-Fi, I'm using their data service. They know I'm in Nicaragua when they do that. I'm allowed access to my account when I'm using cellular data with T-Mobile, but not if I'm using their affiliate Claro data, nor if I use Wi-Fi here. And if I try to use a VPN to access that account, I get blocked. Some other ones. I use Perfect Circuit. Perfect Circuit's an electronics company, primarily synthesizer based. They're out of California. Ordered from them a lot. I got my the Flux synthesizer, the handless digital theremin looking thing that I had a video for over the summer. Ordered that through them because it was a lot quicker than actually ordering directly from the company. And right now that company, I would be ordering from Europe, and there's additional taxes and a processing for exchanging funds. And honestly, in that situation, it's simpler to order from California. So I can log into that account. It'll always do a little pop-up to verify I'm a human, that I'm not a bot. I can order from that account. I can send emails to and from that account. I have stuff mailed to my U.S. address with a U.S. credit card, with a U.S. billing address as a U.S. citizen, and it's never a problem. What is a problem on their website is if I try to access their contests. They have a monthly contest for things. So you cannot access their contests. It uses Gleam as the platform because you can do other things and enroll in other things to get more points into a monthly drawing. It will not allow you access from Nicaragua. So if I try to use the VPN, this is becoming a more and more reoccurring theme. More and more websites are tracking if a VPN is being used, and it still blocks me from their contests. So I have a lawful address in the state of Florida. My driver's license says so. The home of record for my passport says so. My bank account's home of record says so. I have a legitimate, lawful address in Florida where I maintain official correspondence. And then I have this address that I'm in most of the time. I am still a U.S. citizen. The residency I have here, while acknowledged from the country of Nicaragua, I have their formal residency, doesn't discount having a residency in the United States. I still have an address there. I still have a home of record there. So more and more of these websites are now starting to block you for using a VPN. More and more websites are starting to block you if you try to access your accounts when not inside the United States. And yet most of these are global businesses, which I'm getting dumbfounded by. But I want to make people aware of that. I highly encourage you have a quality VPN. I've had some of the free ones and low-cost ones, and they slowed my system down to nothing. I have VPN Proton on both my phone, and I have an account for it for the computer, and it works really well. It's easy to disconnect and connect. It updates on its own. You can pick multiple favorite locations to utilize. But even then, there are websites out there that are going to block you for using a VPN, block you for not using a geotag that's inside the United States. So something to be aware of. So that was the first thing I wanted to get off the chest. The other one is I recently received a very large order from Envios Fast Track. They had some technical delays. They had an imperfect storm. Happy to report this being resolved. So a couple things. Their address in Florida moved from Pompano Beach to Miami. So they're now like 10 blocks from the airport versus being up the street, probably a good half-hour drive. I'm assuming. I don't know Miami traffic other than when I get stuck in it. It seems like it doesn't move. But Miami traffic's far better today than it was 20 years ago. Either way, they had moved offices recently. They told everybody ahead of time, hey, here's the new address. The older address is going away. While they were moving, that also means that they had to change some staff. So there's a learning curve. You got to train new people on how to do things. And the third tier of this was they updated their automation system for the logistical tracking. So from the shipper's end, I had a hard time tracking a couple of my products for a while, started getting nervous. I have one item left in question that I'm concerned about. Everything else is either populated onto their tracking list because they're changing how they track things. It used to only be with the tracking number from Amazon, FedEx, UPS, USPS, what have you. They have an additional internal tracking number they're now automating over to, and that's where some of the confusion went. Either way, I've had good rapport with Envios Fast Track all the way through. You know, I've had my reservations about the last leg shipper. The local one is Cargo Trans. So they're always the ones that will either have it delivered to their office and I can walk the 6 blocks and pick it up. Most of these packages are too heavy for me to carry. Or scheduled delivery. So I finally got the acknowledgement of 25 packages had arrived in Managua. How did I want them dispersed? I confirmed to the address here, the apartment I have. And I was then sent the total amount for the invoice. I went 4 blocks over to the Super Express. I paid the invoice, took a picture of it, sent the confirmation to Envios Fast Track, and within 3 hours, for the first time, I got a text message through WhatsApp from Cargo Trans confirming a potential scheduled delivery in the next business day. So that was on Friday. They are open a half day on Saturday. So if you know from my prior ones, when I'm going to have a delivery, it's kind of like waiting for the cable guy. You're pretty much home all day waiting for the delivery. So on Saturdays, it's a half day. I went out early. I'd already had a batch of Gallo Pinto pre-made. I walked down 4 blocks to a local tienda, small store, that they only make tortillas. So here in Nicaragua, the biggie is getting your fresh tortillas in the morning. They do not taste like what you get in a store. They don't taste like what you get in a restaurant. They are fresh, fluffy corn masa tortillas, and they taste incredible when they're fresh. They taste great when they're not, but it's an extra level of appeal when you get the fresh ones. So I came back here knowing I was going to be home 8 to 1 on Saturday. So I got over, grabbed myself 3 tortilla for the equivalent of 25 cents US. You could buy a dozen for $1. It came out to 9 cord. I gave her 10 cord and said, uno cordoba, popina, gracias. And I walked my 4 blocks back home, had fresh tortillas, took my pre-made beans, rice, onions, garlic, peppers, and chorizo, threw it in the electric skillet with a little bit of olive oil, refried it, threw in some cheese, did some fried cheese with it, so I had the queso frito, and then piled up a plate of that, and that was my breakfast lunch. It was a big hearty lunch with a little bit of hot sauce on it. Made myself up some fresh coffee. So I've been using up, I've had 2 bags of coffee recently gifted to me in the last 6 weeks. One was already ground and one was whole bean. The whole bean actually came from Brooklyn Cafe. And for their Especial coffee, they use a particular organic whole bean that's about, I'm going to say 15 miles from here, maybe 20 miles. It's one of the few companies in the area that actually pays the additional time and money to certify organic for sales in North America, because certified organic is pretty much a North American marketing tool, right, wrong, or indifferent. Most of the world would just look at it being naturally grown and no extra seal of approval, extra level of certification. And I've been a fan of Mayorga coffee, where you can find through Costco. I've been buying Mayorga coffee for near 25 years. Yeah, almost 25 years, which is Central American blend of coffees by Martin Mayorga. If you get a chance, look at their website. Incredible backstory. I met Martin over 20 plus years ago when I was in the tobacco industry. And he had a quick story on the Mayorga. He had came down to see family, and he saw farmers spraying food in full-blown bunny suits. And he's like, you shouldn't have to wear a chemical hazmat suit to put things on food that people are going to eat. So he was one of the people that helped initiate organic, sustained farming, fair trade for employees. They help farmers convert over to solar and wind energy. And they have a separate foundation from their coffee roastery that supports the community and helps the farmers indirect ways. Our buddy Elton with the Men's Coffee Movement has a video of Mayorga's foundation buying mattresses for the farmers that work and stay in the bunkhouses during the season. So a lot of these guys go to work for weeks on end. They don't see their family for long periods of time. It's a labor-intensive job. It's long hours for a short harvesting period. So they pretty much stay in the equivalent of bunkhouses. So a couple of these farms needed new beds. And that was one of the things that Mayorga's foundation was able to do. They were able to buy mattresses. Anything you can do indirectly to help improve the quality of life is an improvement to quality of life. It's not necessarily just throwing money at something or giving somebody higher wages, things like that. But either way, back to the coffee part. So I made myself some fresh coffee, had my Gallo Pinto, and I was feeling pretty good. To their credit, Cargo Trans had also sent me a link to their app, which has never happened in the past. I got it, and it was doing accurate, real-time tracking of my order. So I knew they were done delivering at 1 in the afternoon. I looked at the clock. It was about 12:15, and I pulled and looked up the app, and it said last mile. And by the time I put some shoes on and I walked downstairs from the apartment and looked outside, the Cargo Trans truck was about 80 yards away, making 4 or 5 other deliveries to businesses. And I looked over, and the delivery driver recognized me, again, not hard to find, from the last time he made a drop off. And I looked over and I waved, and he, oh yeah, I got you. So I got a whole bunch of stuff here that I had been waiting for, some of it for a while, and some of it more recently. And I was able to itemize my remaining list of things coming here in the near future. But again, a small hiccup in procedural processes with Envios Fast Track, but now they're back on track. Cargo Trans was the most seamless delivery they've done yet. And I got 70 pounds worth of stuff from Managua to Matagalpa delivered to the door for $14 US. So again, I've quoted the prices before. It's $7.50 per pound for airmail from Miami to Managua. It's $3 per pound for Maritimo by boat. So I had a bad joke in regards to the stuff that was on boat for a long period of time. I was really hoping that the maritime orders weren't having undue duress due to the Caribbean crisis happening with the U.S. military off the coast of Venezuela and on the Pacific side of Costa Rica. I can imagine that would be some amount of delay due to the vast number of U.S. naval vessels in the waters. However, a large cargo shipping vessel with hundreds of shipping containers on it doesn't look like a fast boat. But then again, fishing boats don't look like fast boats either. So there's my 2 cents on that. But either way, deliveries are coming back on speed, which was nice. I did get a couple things. I've got a boom arm here for my microphone. And I hooked up the smaller audio interface for that. So this webcam came in on this order yesterday. So I'm not just now using the laptop, or I'm not just using the GoPro. I now have a permanent office camera. Got the audio interface to work with everything but the microphone so far. So working on that. Other than that, updates on the band I'm sponsoring. So if you've seen a couple of the other videos, I can't post video or pictures of the band. They are a youth band. YouTube has issue with you posting pictures of children. And again, I appreciate those laws and understand their intent and why they're there. And for the most part, they're a good thing. It's just hard for me to visually brag on the 40-some kids that I'm assisting. And I have made 1, 2, 3 donations so far, and I'm looking at a regular monthly donation to help them replace equipment. So if you hadn't seen those videos, their marching bands, or like drum lines, are a very big thing in Central America. So the kids get involved. It's primarily percussion. You will see the xylophone-looking piece of equipment, which is a glockenspiel. Not very Irish. Glockenspiel. They tend to hold with one hand and play with one mallet on the other. So there's up to 3 glockenspiels with about 35 drummers. They do have dancers with the batons, and in a couple events coming up, they will have a couple trumpet players. So my first donation went primarily to getting the kids custom t-shirts with a new logo, because it's a brand new band. They ordered one for me too. They wanted to know what size I wore, and I said, well, if it's in US size, it's a 2XL. If it's in Chinese size, it's a 5XL. There is that much difference in the sizing. But I said, and if you can't find it that way, just look for Gordo Gringo size, because I'm a fat foreigner. And they got a kick out of it. So there's going to be a shirt with my name on it. They wanted to go, what do you want to be called? And I'm like, you can just call Luke. Just Luke. I don't need a title. Like I said, my name, Luke, in English is pronounced Luke. But if you know anything about Espanol, E's are pronounced as an A. So I'm often called Luca, which isn't a biggie to me. The alternative in the U.S., I'd be called Lucas, which isn't my official name, but I understand the similarity, doesn't, whatever. Or more and more often, even especially with Envios Fast Track and communications with me, Don Luke. So if you know anything about the titles, Don is a title of reverence. It is a sign of respect. So Don or Donna in front of somebody's first name. I saw Don all day long when I was in the cigar industry, because we had Don Carlos from Fuente, Don Pepin Garcia, Don Jose from Padron. I mean, all of the senior people, though. So I get called Don Luke, Don Luca, Luke, a Chele, which is Blondie, which I was never truly blonde, but pale people are Chele. So often foreigners, hey, Chele, or oh, Chele. You'll hear hey, basically, which is a polite version of like hey, Whitey, because again, even if you heard Whitey here, it's not really an insult. If you get called Gringo, it's not an insult. We've gone over this a couple times. So you can pretty much call me whatever you want, but don't call me late for breakfast, because I have breakfast every day. If I'm not doing my Gallo Pinto, I'm over at Brooklyn Cafe getting the Granizado frozen bowl. And that is basically, it looks like a fruit smoothie. They've already made a concoction of strawberry, watermelon, almond milk, and honey blended and then frozen. They'll throw in blueberries with it, and then they top it with sliced banana, granola, and sliced coconut. And I have that probably 5 to 6 days a week for breakfast. It's my guilt-free breakfast. 2 cappuccino especials, and then I'm Camillo, which is walking about 15-20 minutes to my clase de Espanol, which is at least 3 días por semana, so 3 days of a week. And sometimes the days get adjusted, which is fine. And then, so I have about a 12-minute walk, 12 minutos, por Desayuno y Brooklyn Cafe. So it's a 12-minute walk to my breakfast at Brooklyn Cafe, and then 15 minutos, about 15 minutes to Clase de Espanol at Matagalpa Tours. And then me regreso back to the apartamento. The return to the apartment is about 20 minutos, 25, which is 20-25 minutes walk back. So I get well over an hour of walking per day, just going to class and breakfast. And then I go out a second time for my dinner, and my dinner could be as close as Asados Los Pofis downstairs, which is the grill of friends, a local barbecue is asado, and Los Pofis is an older term of affection for friends, Pofis, so the friends. So this is the grill where friends come together and eat. I was just down there again the other night. I got a 10-ounce churrasco steak. I got a fried banana, fried platano, small ensalada, salad, piece of queso frito, piece of fried cheese, small scoop of gallo pinto, the beans and rice, and a glass of té de Jamaica, the iced tea made from hibiscus flower. My meal in total was 200 and let me get this right. Well, it came out to $6.50 US, and once you add the tip, I was just over $7 for a steak dinner. I can do that, and it's 60 feet down the street once I go downstairs. The Italian you've heard me talk about, Ristorante Vita e Bella, which is the highest end Italian restaurant in town. That is that is 3.5 blocks away. Diagon Alley, where I'll be going tonight at 6 p.m. They have an art and wine event going on tonight at 6. I'm going to go check that out. They periodically have almost like a pop-up band play. My amigo Scott Allen Miller's website of Nica Habla is up and running. It lists at no cost to the companies events around the entire country. So he told me to check this one out. Also on the event list for this Friday night coming up on the 5th is a jazz night at Brooklyn Cafe at 6 p.m. So if you're in Matagalpa tonight, the 30th of November, through this week of on Friday of the 5th, 2 events locally happening, no cost for admission. Come support the arts, come support some good music. Back to my guys with the band. So I've been making those donations. As I said, the first round went to t-shirts. They should be getting those t-shirts in less than 2 weeks for the whole band. They have some competitions coming up in the near future where they're going to be playing remotely out of town. The contributions I made last month went and paid for 3 brand new drums. Now, mind you, there's about 35 drummers. Not every piece of equipment needs to be replaced. Some of it's just cosmetic damage. Some of it is non-functional, and some is in good shape. So 3 brand new drums were purchased, and I love Nica ingenuity. For drums that work well, don't have damage that affects the sound, but had cosmetic blemishes to the outer structure of the drums, they bought a large roll of basically vinyl shrink wrap and started shrink wrapping a bunch of the drums that had cosmetic problems on the outside. Very inexpensive to just fix the appearance. So I love that Nicas are very frugal people, and they will fix something before they replace something because they keep things for a long time because what little they own, they hold value to. So next month, I'm hoping to see at least 3 or 4 more drums purchased to replace older ones. And at current rate, I could have the entire drum line replaced in as little as 18 months as we're going. I am looking for other expats that want to do direct charitable. This isn't an organized charity. It's not a registered charity. There's no tax statements or tax incentives. I'm going to receive a formal itemized inventory. I do not have that yet. I am getting copies of receipts of what's been purchased with donations made by me, but this isn't a formalized charity. I was looking for potential angels up in the States that wanted to support local kids. I call this like the version of the Boys and Girls Clubs of the 70s and 80s in the States. This is one way to keep 40 kids off the streets, keeping them out of trouble. They're not huffing glue in a park. They're not breaking into cars. They're not jacking people. They're not doing things they're not supposed to do. They're focusing on a community activity. They're taking pride in their work. They're taking pride in their appearance and their performance. They're learning how to work together. As a musician, I can tell you it's one thing to go into a room and work with 3 or 4 other individuals. It's entirely another thing to be working with 30 to 40 other individuals. So I really love being able to support this directly. It's one way I can contribute to the community. One of the other things that came through on the orders was I had mentioned that I ordered a headset for another NECA I know that was getting a new job. That arrived. So that's me indirectly supporting direct employment for a local NECA. I'd already mentioned I've done a permanent loan out of one of my laptops to my Spanish instructor. Another way to support a NECA in their earnings without just throwing money at things. So these are some of the things I get to do to help support my local community without trying to change the community. So when I go every Saturday to the band practice, I've learned to bring my Apple AirPods because we do hit over 100 decibels. And while I'm a musician in prior service, what hearing I do have left, I have to preserve. So the noise canceling helps dramatically. I don't have my ears ringing more than they normally do after a performance. But I don't get up and I don't interject with the kids and I don't say, hey, can you play it like this? I'm not influencing their musical education or training or cohesion. I'm just the nice gringo that came here and is supporting the arts from a distance. But the kids, they recognize me on the streets when they're not at practice, and I get hand waves and stuff, and which is nice. So getting known around the town a little more than other than just appearance. So far, it's been great. I mentioned in the other video, got the residency done until May. Next topic of conversation. 42 minutes, cool. Travel. So I need to fly back to the States at least twice per year, and that is primarily for VA healthcare appointments. My annual exams used to be the first week of January. Now they're the last week of February, and many of my prescriptions are then all based off of those annual exams. The follow-up diagnostics are done based off of those exams. So if any of those appointments get moved, it moves everything else for the remainder of the year and residual years. And I had confirmed all my medical appointments into a 2-week window. I had purchased my flight. I had paid for my rental car, and everything looked good for February. And then Spirit notified me that once again they had to cancel the flight I was flying out of Managua on, and I was going to have to rebook that flight. So they canceled the entire round trip. So the return from the U.S. back to Nicaragua date did not change. I had to move my travel date by 2 days. So I'm flying out 2 days later than originally planned because they're still restructuring their flights. I get to fly on a Friday now instead of on a Wednesday, but I'm still flying in their first class with all my regular luggage with leg room, priority boarding, which doesn't matter to me, but the leg room part does, for less money than the flex pay ticket with Avianca, who is the much larger airline. They are based out of Colombia, El Salvador. They are a major hitter in flights from Miami to Central and South America. So I had to make an adjustment to that flight, and it cost me like an extra $35, which wasn't a biggie. But no sooner did I get that announcement. Now, this was the same day I got denied by Etsy, at the final denial, because that took 72 hours of stupidity before they finally said I was permanently banned from their website, which, oh well. But then I get at noon, I get notification that my flight's been canceled. I need to reschedule, and I lucked out. I found one 2 days later. But I'm going to have to change my car rental now because I'd already booked the car rental. And I was like, you know what, let me just wait a few days. So no sooner than I get the flight rescheduled, 3 hours later, I get notified that my car rental has been canceled. Well, I was going to have to change it by 2 days anyways, and it doesn't let you do an adjustment from their website. It was either reschedule with a different vehicle for the exact same dates for a lot more money, or just do a credit. And I looked, and the lowest price next to what I'd already paid was going to be an additional $300 for the 3-week rental. So if you're not familiar, I am not doing a traditional car rental. Traditional car rentals will run nearly $1,000 a week. I'm going to be gone for 3 weeks. Don't want to pay $3,000 to drive somebody else's used car for 3 weeks. I've been using the Turo app. I used that on 2 different trips earlier this year. Both went without a hitch, were great. I went back and booked the same vehicle I did the last time, and Turo did give an explanation of why they canceled. They claim that the vehicle I had selected no longer met their safety requirements. So at least they provided an answer. But the next vehicle up, most similar, that would be available for pickup and drop off at the airport for me was going to be an extra $300 more. And I said, you know what? Let me just hold off. I'll just wait until after the holidays are over. I'll rebook a new vehicle with Turo then. Go ahead and refund me the $1,385. So their automation works a little better. If you rebook within the first 24 hours of the cancellation, they will just transfer that money over to the new rental. If you do not respond within 24 hours, they automatically process a refund. So the initial information I got from Turo was, well, refunds will be processed in 3 to 5 business days, which is pretty average. Like, okay, so 3 to 5 business days. Once the 24 hours hit, I get an auto email saying, hey, we have refunded your money and it'll take 10 business days to get your money back in your account. And I'm like, 10 business days. And this is where I have a little bit of an issue. So you do online transactions, you purchase something, and the transaction is instantaneous on their side, and your bank normally has it, paid to them within 2 business days max. If a company cancels a transaction, they cancel it instantly, and then it normally it's done. But if a company needs to refund you money, now they can take your money instantly, they can take more money instantly, they can stop a transaction instantly. When it comes time for a company to refund you money, oh, I'm sorry, it's going to be 8 to 10 business days. Oh, and there's a holiday or 2 in there. Oh, and don't forget the weekends, and up to sometimes 3 weeks to get your money back. It didn't take you 3 weeks to take my money. It takes you 3 weeks to give me back my money. I have issue with that. Well, as I was working myself up unnecessarily, Turo had my refund done in less than 48 hours. So kudos. Again, if you're not familiar with it, it is a direct rental program. You're not going through the big rental companies. You're renting from an individual. And I've had nothing but success with them. I'm unfortunate that the vehicle got canceled, and I'll have to book another one in the near future. But I did get my money refunded, which was timely. It's the holidays and things. I've already got the flight taken care of. I've got the medical that was canceled and rescheduled for the same day taken care of. So only a 2-day adjustment to my future plans, which is fine. But yeah, I wanted to give that out. So that is the crazy websites with or without VPN. Be leery of companies like Etsy that just terminate your ability to do transactions on their platform without providing you an explanation of why. And if you're a merchant, maybe you weren't aware that this company arbitrarily denies people the ability to buy from you. So I know you're not getting Etsy service for free. You're paying to be on that platform. But I'm sure many of the vendors that are doing things on that platform didn't know that the company arbitrarily blocks people from buying from them. So something to consider. But yeah, that's a current update on things right now. With that, we're coming up on 50 minutes. I've been trying to keep them under an hour. I am going to be doing some additional episodes in the very near future, which are Lukeisms. They are stories of how I got here, not the physical justification of how I got here, but some backstory of why I'm in Nicaragua, how I got to Nicaragua. I'm going to be doing the next time I do one of these Lucasm stories, it's going to be my first trip to Nicaragua, which was with Perdomo Cigars on a sponsored tour in 2010. There are some funnies. I am going to see about doing this one a little higher production. I've actually got a video that I shot back then. I will probably try to do a voiceover narration for part of it and show you some pictures of the tobacco fields and the factories and the production and the facilities here 15 years ago. And with that, I wish you all well, and audio.